Hello cats and kitties, and welcome to another ASMR video. I know some of you might have been expecting a true crime video this time around. Need a little more time for that because I have been sick and I'm on an antibiotic, not COVID, so nothing like that. But I'm on an antibiotic and I've had some bad fibromyalgia days because I've been sick. So what you guys are getting instead is a book show and tell. These are some of my favorite books. Some of them I've gotten recently, some of them I've had for a while. And the first one that we're going to look at is The Princess Bride. This is a book that was made into a movie. Most of you all know that. Plenty of you have probably seen it. On the back here, we've got a picture of Buttercup. It's Buttercup and Farm Boy, as she calls him. And it's by William Golden, but he refers to it as S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love. And this is a very pretty book. Look at this. Inside, there's a map of the kingdom. And the paper is beautifully done. It's made to look like parchment paper. And it even has illustrations in it. Let me see if I can find one. Here is Princess Buttercup appearing before the crowd. Remember, in the movie, she is introduced to the kingdom by Prince Humperdinck, and she goes out to meet the crowd, and one of the women boos her. They boo her and they tell her that she gave up true love, and they tell her that her true love still lives, that Wesley is somewhere out there. So this is just a wonderful book, and I decided that I needed to have it. It's just a beautiful book all the way around. It's got a beautiful spine. It's got this gorgeous font on it. It really is just very pretty. And I decided that I needed to have it because when my husband does something, or if I ask him if he'll do something for me or if he can get something done, sometimes he'll look at me and he'll smile and he'll say, "As you wish." And if you know that Wesley says, "As you wish" to Buttercup, and what that really means is, "I love you." So I love this book. It's my favorite movie. The book is somewhat like the movie because William Goldman actually wrote the script, the screenplay for the movie. So similar, but there are some differences, which is always the case when you take a book and turn it into a movie. Okay. The next book that I'm going to show you is one of Barnes & Noble's editions that they put out. They put out some classic books, and they always do the covers beautifully. This is the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. And you see that here's the raven on the front. And it says, "Nevermore." Right here. And I'm sure many of you know Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven. But it's not just the poem, it's the complete works. All of his poems, all of his short stories, his detective stories. I bet you guys didn't know that he wrote detective stories. In fact, Mark Twain praised him as one of the best storytellers ever. And here on the back it says, quote the raven, nevermore. You can see here, it's got these beautiful silver gilded pages. And let's see, I'll tell you, oh, I'm going to show you the front cover. Here's the raven, and here's a lovely full moon, and a lonely tree. The covers are beautiful in these books, they really are. And the poetry and the fiction are separated from one another. But let's see, just a few that are in here are The Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Telltale Heart, The Pit and the Pendulum, The Gold Bug, which is a great mystery, and so is The Murders in the Rue Morgue. Let's see, The Devil in the Belfry, The Fall of the House of Usher. These are all stories that are well known by Poe, and they're all in here. Just leaf through and find the one that you want to see or that you want to read. But this is a favorite of mine. I love Edgar Allan Poe. And I think every headbanger, especially a Gothic headbanger, worth their salt, loves Poe. Okay, so there's that one. Now we're going to look at a book that I used when I was in graduate school. One of the first things that you do in graduate school for counseling is you pick your counseling theory. Every counselor has to have a theory that they counsel from. You can't just sit down and start saying, well, I think you should do this. It's not really the way it works. What you have to do is pick an approach. So one of the first books that we used in my class for theories of counseling was this book called, appropriately enough, Theories of Counseling and Psychotherapy, a case approach. And it's by Nancy L. Murdoch. It's got all these pretty, I guess, trees. Kind of looks like it's in a forest. And on the back, tells you a little bit about the book, and especially that for each theory that they're going to teach you, they're going to give you a case study, and it's going to give you a story of a patient, a client, and how the counselor approaches the client and what theory they use. It even had, at one time, a CD in it to follow along with the book, and I have no idea what I've done with the CD. But as you can see, I did quite a bit of highlighting. This book I found to be very good, very important, and quite a bit of this book is highlighted. More of it's highlighted than isn't, to be honest. So I found it to be a very, very important book for me. And some of the theories covered are psychoanalysis, neo-analytic approaches, individual psychology, person-centered therapy, existential therapy, Gestalt therapy, or Gestalt, but most people say Gestalt. Behavior therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy, which is my theoretical orientation that I would use. It's the one that I think works very well with clients. Cognitive therapy, reality therapy, feminist therapy, family systems theory, solution-focused therapy, narrative therapy, and then at the end it gives you a conclusion where it sort of sums up all of those. So this was a very, very important book to me. And you might find yourself using it if you ever decide to become a counselor. The next book is not quite so serious. I think I may have shown you guys this book before. If you'll remember, or if you go back through my videos and want to watch, there is one about coffee trivia. And some of the facts that I used in that book, or that video, came from this book. And it is called Coffee Gives Me Superpowers. It even looks like it has little coffee stains and little drips on it. Although at my house those could very well be real. But so yeah, coffee gives me superpowers, and here come the superpowers up out of the coffee. Coffee gives me superpowers. And inside, the inside cover, I hope you can see this, has hearts and stars and coffee cups. It's a cute little inside cover. Now, most of the inside of the book is done in infographics, which are basically just pictures that tell you things about coffee. Like, for example, comparing coffee to beer. That's interesting, isn't it? Only thing I can say about that is they are both addictive. Let's see. It tells you how many coffee beans it takes to make an espresso. It tells you, let's see, the lethal dose of caffeine for people is 100 cups. So do not sit and drink 100 cups of coffee, and I can't imagine that you would, but you know, here are the different types of coffees and what they're made of. So this is a really interesting book, and it is by, and I'm going to butcher this name, Ryoko Iwata. And some of the reviews for this book say 2 parts fun, 3 parts educational, and 50 parts over-caffeinated. Awesomeness. Coffee Gives Me Superpowers is as entertaining as it is informative. And another person who is the senior editor at coffeegeek.com, Mark Prince, says, drawn with a whimsical, eye-catching style, I Love Coffee is a daily stop for me in my internet journeys, and now the best of the bunch is together under one book roof. Okay, the next book I want to show you was given to me by my daughter C, and it is Frankenstein. There he is. This is in a classic paperback edition. Gives you a little bit of a summary back here on the back. Inside, it's your classic paper book. Looks very much like the Penguin classics that you would see books. And on the back it says, "The story of Victor Frankenstein and the monster he created has held readers spellbound since it was first published more than 2 centuries ago. On the surface, it is a novel of tense and steadily mounting dread. On a more profound level, it illuminates the triumph and tragedy of the human condition in its portrayal of a scientist who oversteps the bounds of conscience and of a creature tortured by the solitude of a world in which he does not belong. A novel of almost hallucinatory intensity, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein represents one of the most striking flowerings of the romantic imagination. It is a classic work of horror that blurs the line between man and monster." I have read this book before, but I didn't own it until my daughter C got it for me. And one of the things you'll notice when you read Frankenstein is that the monster is initially created so much more differently than the monster in the movie. If you've seen the classic movie of Frankenstein, the 1930, I want to say 33, Boris Karloff, then you probably know Frankenstein as a creature who couldn't really talk, who couldn't walk very well, who was just sort of not even at a toddler age mentality, really, or just about at that. That is not true in the book. In the book, he learns to speak, he learns to move, he gives soliloquies, he is very well reasoned, very well thought out, and a lot of the violence that he commits has to do with being misunderstood or feeling betrayed. Now, it's not to say that he should commit violence, but it's usually there is some reason before he commits violence. He's not necessarily violent by nature. Something has spurred him into it. Okay, the next book is from Barnes & Noble, and it is one of their classics, and it is The Picture of Dorian Gray. And this cover is soft. It feels like leather. It's not leather, but it feels like it, and it's embossed kind of in a 3D like way. It's the picture of Dorian Gray. It's got this nice embossing on the spine. It's got a bookmark in it, which I actually am using at the moment because I'm rereading it. The Picture of Dorian Gray is by famous playwright and author Oscar Wilde. And basically it is about a man, Dorian Gray, a young man, who wishes that he would never appear to get older, that he would always be beautiful and handsome the way he is right then. And I believe he is 20 maybe at this point when he makes this wish. And a friend of his has been painting a portrait of him, and the portrait is wonderful. It looks just as youthful and beautiful as Dorian does. So Dorian makes a wish that he will never age. And he takes the portrait home with him, and what he realizes is that since he's never going to age, he thinks, well, I'm just going to experience everything I can. one of his other friends told him, you need to experience things. The sensual is the most important. So Dorian goes on and he does really some not very nice things. He basically betrays people. He sees girls and then abandons them. He just does a lot of not very nice things. And every bad thing that he does shows up in the portrait. The portrait gets uglier. Every time he does something bad happens in the portrait. And eventually, he can't take it anymore. The portrait is so hideous and so ugly because of all the things he's done that he stabs the portrait. He rips the portrait, and that winds up killing him. So there's a really good human nature story in there that you can be beautiful on the inside, but it will not hide the ugly and the damage that's done to your inside. So beautiful on the outside. I think I said inside. But yeah, even if you're beautiful on the outside, the inside will show what you have done. So it's a very interesting book. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. It's very good. Okay, our next book is, yes, that's right, it's about Ted Bundy. T-E-D-B-U-N-D-Y. Ted Bundy. If you don't know who Ted Bundy is, Ted Bundy was an American serial killer who killed about 30 women, probably more, but that's a rough estimate of what we have. This book is by Stephen G. Michaud, I'm not sure, and Hugh Ainsworth. And they are journalists who got permission from Ted Bundy to record him and to do interviews with him when he was on death row. And so this book is basically the transcript. As you can see, it's written in a transcript form. And it is the transcript of the tapes that they recorded with him, and it gives you a very interesting look into the mind of a serial killer, the mind of someone who knows that their fate is about to catch up with them. It's very interesting. Those of you who know me know that I'm very interested in true crime. And Ted Bundy has always interested me because he doesn't fit a lot of the things that you think of when you think of serial killers. Very charming, nice looking, college student, wanted to be a lawyer, went to law school, was very good at charming his victims into his car or helping him with something, a lot of times he would show up with a cast or something on his arm and ask for help with something. And so this is a very interesting look, and it got turned into a Netflix documentary series, which you can watch on Netflix if you have Netflix. But very interesting book. Pretty long book, over 300 pages, so it's very thorough. They pretty much put down everything that they got from him. So, interesting book. And last but not least, we have this last book that my daughter also got me, and it is, if I can get it where it's not glared, The Phantom of the Opera and Other Gothic Tales. Yeah, look at this. This is another one of Barnes & Noble's very prettily bound books. We've got this, look at this beautiful spine. And on the back, it tells you some of the authors of the stories that are in the book. We've got Edgar Allan Poe, Mary Shelley, Horace Walpole, J. Sheridan Le Fanu, I'm guessing on that one, Arthur Mencken, Clark Ashton Smith, H.P. Lovecraft, and Gaston Leroux, and others. So again, we have this beautiful inside Barnes & Noble always makes very pretty inside covers for the books. And one of the ones in this book, the very first one I read was I think it's Vampire. It might be Vampire, but I think it's Vampire. It is the original Dracula vampire story, predating even Bram Stoker's Dracula. And it's a very interesting story because at the end, Dracula gets away. Or the vampire gets away. His name is not Dracula. But he gets away, and it makes it that much more interesting because you think, okay, at the end of the story, he's still out there somewhere. Again, we have nice gilded pages here, this time in gold. And let's see if we have any illustrations in this. Ooh, I like that sound. The sound of a book opening up. Let's see. I'll flip through here. I don't see any illustrations as I'm looking. I just came across a fantastic sentence. The head has not been found yet, asked Ludwig after supper of the landlord of the inn. No, sir, not yet, replied their host. Ah, there are some strange rumors in town. I guess so, if a head hasn't been found. But yes, I am working my way through this. It does take a little bit to go through some of these stories because they're written in very flowery language, no matter whether the author is English or American. Gothic literature tends to be very, very descriptive, lots of describing clauses, and sometimes it takes a little bit to wade through it and actually get to the action, so to speak. Alright guys, I have to point out my nails. This is my first time using press-on nails. So give me a thumbs up if you like my nails. Or, you know, just if you like the video. I hope you guys are doing well and you're safe. Thank you for being patient with me about the true crime video. It's coming. It really is. I have researched and written up 4 articles, and I've got 1 more to go. And because I didn't have that last one finished, I just wasn't comfortable doing the video on it yet. But I'll give you a little teaser. There is a homicidal clown and a purple cow. Purple cow, homicidal clown. Yes, now isn't that relaxing? Don't you just want to go right to sleep right now? I hope you guys are doing wonderful. I hope you're safe, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Good night. Sleep well.